What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com as well as ArrowheadAddict.com, and we've got a trade. The Kansas City Chiefs have traded a 6th-round pick for Steelers defensive end Melvin Ingram. I had just made a video about the Kansas City Chiefs potentially dealing for Melvin Ingram last week after there was a report that came out that the Steelers were looking to move him and that the Chiefs had actually made an offer. And I said Melvin Ingram was someone that I wanted this past offseason. I really, truly think the Kansas City Chiefs could have had Melvin Ingram this past offseason if they wanted to, but they let him go to the Steelers after they had him on a visit earlier in free agency. Then they never really came back to him, and he ended up in Pittsburgh. And now his time in Pittsburgh has fizzled out. I hear a lot of convoluted stuff from Steelers fans about why they really decided to deal him away. Part of it was because they had some other guys get healthy and come back, which made him kind of drop out of the rotation a little bit. He is getting up there in age a little bit. He's about 32 years old now. He was doing okay for them, but the Steelers have a good pass rush, and they didn't necessarily need Melvin Ingram. I mean, Alex Highsmith was coming back. They still got TJ Watt, who had an injury earlier in the year, but he seems to be about 100% now. Melvin Ingram wasn't happy there with his role anymore, and so he requested a trade. And now he ends up in Kansas City, where I think he really wanted to be the entire time. I think Kansas City wanted him there, but by the time he signed with the Steelers, the Chiefs had spent money in other places, or they just didn't want to pursue him anymore. Chris Jones was moving out to D-end initially, and they probably just thought they had enough. I don't think they targeted Ingram as hard after his original visit earlier in the offseason, like April or March. But yeah, now Melvin Ingram is a Chief, and how do I feel about it? I think you guys know how I feel about it. I wanted Melvin Ingram. I said all season long that this team could have had Melvin Ingram. Every time their pass rush struggled to get pressure on someone, I'm like, you could have had Melvin Ingram. Look at what he's doing for the Steelers. And he hasn't had a fantastic season by any means, but he did have one of the better pass rush win rates, actually. I'm going to read some stats to you guys in a minute here, just to give you some perspective on Melvin Ingram and what he brings to the Chiefs. Yeah, he's not what he once was, but he's still probably one of, if not the best option that the Chiefs have from a pass rushing standpoint at the defensive end position now. I want to read you guys this tweet from Eric Eager over at PFF. He tweets this out following the trade between the Chiefs and the Steelers. Ingram has had 18 pressures and 140 pass rushing snaps this year so far. That's 12.9% pressure rate. His career pressure rate is about 12.8%. So right now he's right above his average career pressure rate. The Chiefs' edge players' pressure rate this year in comparison. Frank Clark, after last night, is at 12% pressure rate. Okay, Melvin Ingram is a tad bit higher than Clark. Mike Dana is at a 7% pressure rate, so he's much higher than Mike Dana. And then lastly, Alex Okafor has recorded a 7.2 pressure rate from the defensive end spot. Melvin Ingram is obviously above that. Looking at Ingram's stats this year, he has a sack, 10 combined tackles, 5 solo, 5 assists, 2 tackles for a loss, and 6 quarterback hits. For only playing about 62% of the defensive snaps for Pittsburgh this year, plus his reduction in snaps over the last several weeks, that's a decent stat line. Ingram is going to come in here, and he's going to be, like I said, one of, if not their best option as a pass rush specialist from the defensive end position. Maybe not quite the edge setter you would want, not a prototypical Steve Spagnuolo defensive end, but at this point, screw a prototypical Steve Spagnuolo defensive end. I mean, really, because what have they done? I mean, look, this was a Chiefs pass rush that desperately needed some help. They just did. And Melvin Ingram will certainly help. And look, I know the Chiefs pass rush actually had, they made some progress last night against the New York Giants, but that's the New York Giants. You got to be better against, good opponents, because we saw them go up against also the Washington football team, and they really struggled to get pressure. We saw them go against Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans, who had actually allowed the most sacks to their quarterback of any team in the NFL heading into that game, and the Chiefs could not get a lick of pressure. We saw them go up against the Philadelphia Eagles, who were missing 4 or 5 starters on their offensive line. Everyone but Jason Kelce, was injured on that offensive line, and the Chiefs could not get a lick of pressure on Jalen Hurts. Melvin Ingram is someone that can get pressure. He's been one of the more higher graded in the league for some time now. I remember last year his pass rushing grade would have been the highest on the Chiefs roster. It was somewhere in the 70s. I don't think anyone on the Chiefs had anything above like 65, so that puts it in perspective a little bit more as well. Melvin Ingram's not going to be an every down player or anything, but if you can have him rotate in there instead of someone like Alex Okafor, look, that's a huge boost. And I do think that this move probably means Chris Jones is going to be playing exclusively on the inside. Maybe he'll still have some snaps on the outside, but the important thing is getting Melvin Ingram allows you to move Chris Jones back inside pretty much full time. If not, then pretty close to full time. And now you have a pass rush that when everyone's on, you're hoping it's Melvin Ingram, Jarran Reed, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark. And I've given Frank Clark a ton of grief for the longest time, but he stepped it up the last couple games. He's gotten some pressures, I will admit. He has. Jarran Reed also stepped up last night after having a really disappointing tenure so far with the Chiefs. If this Chiefs defense hopes to turn it around, if the Chiefs hope to turn it around, it'll be because they got a pass rush, because that was one of the biggest things killing them so far. I knew they were deficient at linebacker already. We all knew that. We knew that they had some questions at cornerback and in the secondary, but people thought the pass rush was going to be decent, and it's just been a failure so far. If the Chiefs are going to turn it around, it's going to be because the pass rush stepped up. You know, that's got to be the hope here, is that you get a pass rush that can actually start causing pressure, start making it easier on your secondary, start instilling fear into other teams. Like, man, the Chiefs got a lot of guys that can give us trouble. And now with Chris Jones, you know, theoretically moving back inside, maybe that helps Jarran Reed become more effective from the middle, playing next to Chris Jones now. Now he's not the only one there in the middle. I think the Chiefs thought maybe a little too highly of him and said, hey, now that we got this guy who can be disruptive on the inside, we can move Jones out to the edge, and, you know, that'll fix all of our problems. But clearly that just hasn't been the case this year. And then you still got Mike Dana, who's having a solid season. I really don't think Mike Dana is anything special. I think some people got a little overhyped about him because he had a few coverage sacks. But he's still a decent, solid player. You know, you got him to rotate in there, and then you got Melvin Ingram, who's going to be your pass rush specialist. I mean, look, I'm not going to fault the Chiefs for making this move. I see some people are being a little pissy about this. I understand they could have had him in free agency, and I've been the one pounding the drum for Melvin Ingram. I get it. I'm upset too because they had to give up an asset to get someone that they could have signed. I understand, but the important thing here is that Brett Veach is trying. He's trying, okay? Like I said about the Josh Gordon move, it may or may not work out. Josh Gordon may do nothing here. We'll see. Maybe they need to use him more, but that's a story for another day. But the important thing is Brett Veach was trying when he brought in Josh Gordon. He's trying to help this defense by bringing in Melvin Ingram. I know as well as a lot of other people said, just bringing in Melvin Ingram or just bringing in a defensive end is not going to solve all this team's problem, and that's still true. But I don't want them to do nothing. You know, I would be more pissed if the Chiefs did nothing at the deadline rather than bring in Melvin Ingram for a 6th-round pick. It's a 6th-round pick. Who cares? I will take Melvin Ingram over the uncertainty of the 6th-round pick any day of the week. I'm sorry. I'm glad the Chiefs did something. I don't know how you could be upset about this. I really don't. And this isn't directed at anyone in particular, but I've seen some people on Twitter say, hey, you know, Melvin Ingram isn't that good anymore, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? You're helping the defense. Okay, he's trying. I like it. I would rather them do this than stand pat. I know originally that the Steelers were wary of dealing with the Chiefs given that they play in the same conference. They would have rather dealt him to an NFC team. But at the end of the day, you have to take the best deal that's on the table. And I'm not sure how many other teams were interested in Ingram. The Chiefs get him for a 6th-round pick. I mean, come on. You'll take that any day of the week if you're smart. I know there was a report that the Chiefs were also in on Charles Omenihu before they dealt for a Melvin Ingram. I think they made the right move there. I'd have Ingram over Omenihu. You know, I would have taken both, but Omenihu's already off to the 49ers now. They dealt for him for a late-round pick. But, yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Those are my thoughts on the Melvin Ingram trade. I will say I hope the Chiefs aren't done. I would like to see maybe another move, maybe go get Lonnie Johnson from the Texans. They're having a fire sale right now. They just got rid of Omenihu, like I said. Maybe Justin Reed, someone like that. I don't know. I would like to see the Chiefs maybe make one more big splash move to try and make the most of this season, but that's just me. So all you guys watching, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Also, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this move, and all that being said, make sure you go check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com. See ya.